No theme song needed for this part of the episode. It is another episode of Getting There with Goz. A new style here. Since I've launched this in late January, early February, one of the coolest things that people have done for me, whether it's via email, private messages on social media, and more, is they've been asking, Goz, are going to give takes. We were used to listen to you in Albany. We heard you in Syracuse. We love the stuff that's going on talking about people's careers, but we know you as the guy who gave takes on the air. Football, baseball, basketball, sports, your unique perspective on what's going on in the sports world. We miss it, which was extremely flattering. I was touched by those messages, and they kept coming in and still complimenting the style of Getting There with Goz, but people know me as a sports radio host, and they wanted to hear my perspective on the weekly story. So I had this little secret about sports talk radio that I have to share with you before we get into this. Believe it or not, 20 to 25 hours a week, sometimes the content isn't always good. I know, shocking. It's hard to always have really good sports topics when you're locked in for that 20 to 25 hours a week, depending on how long your show is, especially when you work in certain markets. Now, some days you might want more content and more time on the air because of the big topics of the day. But a lot of times, there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of filler. Like good movies, right? A good movie, there's no end time on it. It just ends. A director might take it to a certain distances. This is how long the movie is. It doesn't have to be 4 hours. It doesn't have to be 2 hours exactly. It's whatever the movie is. If you're a fan of Netflix or Hulu, some of their original programming is not locked in at 48 minutes. It might be 52. It might be 55. Time moves. That's what I want to have this be. So this is a sports-centric episode. For some of you, this is going to be the only episode you download all week, and that's cool. For some of you, this is not your thing. Some of you might skip to the end and just get your bets and be done. But if you do that, rate, review, download, subscribe, all those other things. Once a week, I'm going to try to do this all for my sports takes. It will not be 5 hours long. It will not be 20 hours a week. Goz on the go. So each week, about 30 to 45 minutes, get rid of the fluff, give you my takes on the week, give you my perspective. You can be a part of the show. Social media is still open to you. At Tom Goz, TomGozz. On Twitter, Facebook.com. Just search my name. Instagram, Getting There with Goz. When you see this episode up, leave your opinions there. I'll probably talk about it next week as well. And who knows, maybe in the future on some of these episodes, I'll have partners. Like in 2 weeks from now, we'll probably talk about the bracket. I'll have a college basketball person. I will break down the brackets for you so you get your picks right and hopefully win your office pools. We'll do all that stuff. When we get closer to the playoffs, we'll probably have some NBA people on. We'll have some NHL people on. The NFL draft. So you can kind of get to the vibe of what's going on here. Certain themed episodes per week. And other times, you're just going to hear me talk. Now, some of you on the audio side, I'll already say it out of the gates. Goz, I love you, brother, but I don't want to hear your voice for 35 minutes straight. And that's okay. Before you flip off, here's my best advice to you. If you've got a attention span like a mosquito, go to our visual side because we're going to have fun graphics. Whee! Like that. See, there's a little tease for you. We're going to have fun graphics throughout, and if you're watching on the visual side, it's not going to be my face just staring at you for 35 minutes awkwardly. We will have some graphics to keep you entertained and more, so that I can promise you. So if you're not into hearing me for this one episode for 35 minutes straight, that's fine. Flip over to our visual side. I'll do my best to keep it moving for you and use me as an interval, basically. If you're doing your workout, I know a lot of people listen to this podcast on the treadmill. A lot of people do it while they're shuffling. Every topic's going to be about 5 to 6 minutes, so there you go. Set your goal. Have me be your workout buddy. All right, enough stalling. Let's get into the conversations for this week. Let's get into the big topic involving the Capital Region News. UAlbany Great Danes basketball coach Will Brown will not be returning to the program. Coach Brown, 20 seasons as the head coach for the Great Danes. Now, for those who don't know this, I think it's fair to remind people, I've been an employee of UAlbany. I've worked ESPN3 games for the women's basketball team. I've been the on-field and on-court host for both the basketball and football program, and my former employer was a flagship station for UAlbany sports. So I think that needs to get out there before this starts, for those who didn't know that. I had an awesome cut of Red Panda that I taped on my cell phone from this past basketball season. I was going to play on the visual side. The audio stinks, and I already tested it in my headphones, so you can thank me later for not showing some Red Panda highlights. Instead, you just got the Great Danes logo sitting there. Coach Brown, 315, 295 overall record for the Great Danes. His 5 conference titles is the most in the conference's history. The only person who has as many as him, also with 5, is the Hall of Famer Jim Calhoun. Now, look, UAlbany Great Danes recently haven't been great, and these are just real stats. 33-47 the last 3 seasons. They made news when 2 players, David Nichols and Joe Cremo, left the program. So I don't even want to really get into whether or not the Great Danes should have brought back Coach Brown, because I believe they should have. He's shown what he can do in the conference. I kind of compare his situation to Tim Kluse in Iona. Now, Coach Kluse is no longer there. Rick Pitino is the coach, but people don't really remember how often Coach Kluse performed in the regular season in these one-bid leagues like the MAC, America East. Your performance is judged on how you do in that conference tournament. A lot of people who are listening outside of the Capital Region still may remember that 2006 UAlbany almost upset over that UConn team that eventually lost to George Mason in the Elite Eight. That UConn team had 5 pros. I think it ended up being 6, but I think it ended 6 guys went professional. And they almost became the Great Danes, the first 16 seed to knock off a 1 seed. That was Coach Brown. I remember I got text messages the other day when Coach Brown was released, and it said, wait, what happened to the Australian kid who hit the buzzer beater? Yeah, people still remember the Peter Hooley shot. So, look, I think Coach Brown should have come back for the success that he had. It's very difficult in this world that we live in COVID-19 that he knew probably for a while. Hang on a second. March of 2020 is probably when these negotiations need to start happening for my extension. And the longer and longer he had gone without an extension, he may have thought, okay, this isn't going to happen. I would have liked Coach Brown to come back because of the success that he had. But I feel like this is not one of these situations where it's just as easy as, well, he's had success. How do you find the right salary? How do you find the right situation? When is the right time to move on? I would have brought him back. Again, conference championships, success in March, putting the program on a national stage and everything else. That's not the biggest issue I have. Again, I'm biased because I like Coach Brown. I fully admit that. And I thought he did a great job. That's not the hugest issue that has come from what happened. And I went to social media and talked about this. The situation is what happened involving the Great Danes and how awful this was handled. Now, Michael Kelly's done a fantastic job covering this here locally. Follow him on Twitter. I've got his tweet up here on the visual side. Michael Kelly said this is following the game on Sunday. Will Brown on when he expects to address his contract situation status of UAlbany, quote, yeah, I have no idea. To be honest with you, I would imagine sometime soon, but I have no idea at this point in time. His contract was up. The next day, UAlbany announced that Will Brown was not coming back. Now, Roger Weiland had the first tweet. Shout out to Roger for getting that. He had it about 8:21 on Monday morning. John Rothstein from CBS Sports was next within the 5 minutes, also reporting that Coach Brown was out. And that's where the issue starts for me for UAlbany. And this is what hurts me. I feel for Coach Brown on this because you're a guy, Coach Brown, who's been there for 20 years. 20 years, 5 conference championships. He's put the stage on the map. He's put this team on the map. And he gets this. It leaked somehow. Now, if Roger or Rothstein had it before UAlbany, that's pretty impressive. I mean, let's think about how reports come together, right? Somebody tells someone something, and then we get this press release about 2 hours later from the Great Danes. A mutual parting of ways. Coach Brown is quoted, I have decided it's time for me to move on. Meeting with Mark Benson, we've agreed to mutually part ways. Guys, wait a second. I just showed you the image of Michael Kelly asking Coach Brown about the contract. And then I flip around and it says they mutually parted ways. Here's what UAlbany should have done. This is what's been driving me crazy for the last 3 days. This guy's been there for 20 years. You put a purple and gold spot on your Twitter or your Facebook. Nice 2-3 paragraphs. Coach Will Brown lists the accomplishments, lists the accolades, everything. So they do that here in the side of it. But we're going to move on. It's time for a different spot of our program. Thank you for everything you've done. Okay. Now look, some of that is here. We're grateful for all Will has done for UAlbany Athletics. Mark Benson quoted in this press release. There it is, the paragraph above. They note his accomplishments and everything else. But it should have been done before Roger had it. It should have been done before Rothstein had it. There should have been more for Coach Brown at the end. I don't like how the media had this before. I don't like how UAlbany waited. When I'm recording this on Wednesday night, I had not even seen the UAlbany basketball Twitter account mention the dismissal of Coach Brown, and Cam Healy, one of their star players, is already out. UAlbany could have handled that better. That's what hurt. Now, I know what somebody's going to say. Goz, you're a little sensitive to this right now. You went through a situation with your own career and how your former employer handled it. That has nothing to do with this. It doesn't. I wish I could. I should not even be in the same sentence as Coach Brown, but it happened locally. Coach Brown deserved better on the way out from UAlbany. I feel for that. That's my thing. And by the way, I have relationships with people at UAlbany. I don't know who handled the press side of this. I know Mark Benson personally. Mark Benson called me after I was let go from 104.5, the team. He was one of the people who I was on the phone with the longest. I really like him. I wouldn't say anything I wouldn't say to Mark's face. If he wants to call me after this and is ticked off and say, guys, I don't like what you said. Look, I just don't like how this was handled. Put out the press release first. Don't let Roger or Rothstein scoop it. That's it. Coach deserves better at the end. The mutually of parting of ways. He got asked the day before if he was coming back and didn't know. What did he agree to mutually part ways with? Well, it doesn't make any sense. Just say you're dismissing him, say you're not bringing him back. Write something nice. It's the issue I had with UAlbany. Let's move on to the Syracuse basketball program. Coach Jim Boeheim in the orange. Hey, they're coming off a nice winning. Let's get into Syracuse basketball. Now, for full disclosure, I taped another part of this episode right after the Syracuse Clemson game. I had a bunch of stats, I had a bunch of knowledge. I'm going to save a lot of that research for a later episode because a lot happened after the game. And that involves the legendary coach, Coach Jim Boeheim, and from The Athletic, reporter Matthew Gutierrez. If you missed it, here is Coach Boeheim's reference to Matthew Gutierrez. Coach, what are your thoughts on Matthew?
Our next question is from
But if I played Jesse and Kadari, we'd probably be 22-2 now. I just didn't see that. And I couldn't figure that out by myself. After 45 years, I need a reporter to figure that out who's never played basketball and is 5'2".
Coach Boeheim off the top rope. Coach, quiet over there. Quiet. Enough out of you. Coach Boeheim, I love it, man. It has me laughing every single time because that little sip at the end, a little bit like Kermit the Frog in the team meme, if Coach even knows what that is. Coach has gone beyond caring about what reporters or people think of him. He is officially everybody's grandpa. He's letting it fly. I am laughing at it because, look, he doesn't care. It's more entertaining the post-game press conferences now with Coach Boeheim than the actual action on the court for the Orange, which is sad that this is the most entertaining thing that happens. Now, if you kind of wonder what's this backstory between Matthew Gutierrez and Coach Boeheim, there's been some talk of, Coach apologizing to Matthew over some type of situation, about a question he had asked about Jesse Edwards playing more. And then this was what Matthew Gutierrez posted on Twitter following that exchange. Boeheim says via Zoom that I've never played basketball before and I'm 5'2", so I'm not qualified to have an opinion on Syracuse. There is something deep into this, and especially on a podcast that talks about media. There's an old school versus new school approach to what's going on here. And what I mean by that is that, okay, let's say you live in the central New York area, and we'll use Mike Waters, who covers the Syracuse team, for an example, or even Bud Poliquin, who used to. Imagine you read the Post-Standard or the Herald Journal, and before you find out a quote from Coach Boeheim, you see Waters or Poliquin write, Coach Boeheim insulted my skill set when I used to play basketball, but he commented this on the Clemson game. You'd laugh if you saw that in the old school newspaper. Let's say my pal Chet Davis out here at CBS 6 is interviewing Coach Carm from Siena. And in his newscast, Chet puts in, before Coach answered the question about the upcoming MAC tournament, he insulted my style of basketball and said I knew nothing. We would laugh at that too, because as many reporters and newscasters and writers know, when you add that element of the story to it, you become the story. Now, Gutierrez going to Twitter, some old school media members would say he is now making himself the story. I can fully relate. And I love the new school approach from Matthew Gutierrez because for whatever reason, people didn't want reporters and media members to be raw, real, and authentic. When I posted that first podcast, the first two, I had so many people call me and say, take it down. You don't want to have future employers see that. You don't want to talk bad about. You guys heard the podcast. I wasn't negative. I was real, authentic, and truthful. Gutierrez posts on his Twitter the quote from Boeheim, basically. He says it. He's real. He just repeats back what happened. Now, a lot of people say, oh, he's being thin-skinned. He doesn't have to go to Twitter to get the compliments and dig at Boeheim. Why? He took a shot at me. I just posted what he said and let people react. I love it. Matthew Gutierrez versus Coach Jim Boeheim at WrestleMania. Coach Boeheim comes out with the Hollywood Hulk Hogan music like the WCW, the Hendrix hits. Gutierrez comes out like Daniel Bryan, the young, small underdog. Give me more of this. This is far more entertaining. And I'm team Gutierrez and Boeheim. I love them both. I think he's entertaining, Coach Boeheim, although curmudgeon-y, no doubt. And I think Gutierrez rallying the Twitter mob against him is entertaining. Give me more of this. A weird stretch in the NFL with all of this movement. Jared Goff is now a Lion. Matthew Stafford is now a Los Angeles Ram. I like the movement going on in the NFL with the quarterbacks, but here's one of these secrets people don't know about the NFL. After the Super Bowl, like that first week into February, between then and like the second week of March, it's supposed to be quiet. And I know the big bosses at ESPN and all the major networks don't want to admit that. It's NFL 24/7, 365. We love football. There's two slow times in the NFL. It is that late February, early March stretch because not a lot is going on. And it's June before training camps open and a little bit after the rookies report and everything else. There are times where we don't have to sit and ask about Dak Prescott's contract. Trust me, we can wait on Sam Darnold and what's going to happen with the Jets. It doesn't always have to happen that fast. Oh, and by the way, the Buccaneers did win the Super Bowl. Shout out to Tom Brady and everybody else. Let's go. The Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions. Don't think I went way too long into this podcast not mentioning that. And look, Tampa next year should be considered the favorite. I know people don't want to hear that. It's like, no, the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. They should be they beat them. They beat them. Tampa with everybody coming back. I know Chris Godwin's situation's interesting. Shaq Barrett and more. But to quote Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Woo! J.J. Watt in Arizona Cardinal. Love the move for the Cardinals. How about that squad all of a sudden? Kyler Murray, J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, Chandler Jones. Arizona is a legit threat to do a Tampa situation next season and go to the Super Bowl. Here's the biggest issue, though, with the Arizona Cardinals. Is Cliff Kingsbury a good coach? Does he have the greatest agent of all time? Cliff Kingsbury has coached 8 seasons. 8, counting both college and professional. Do you know how many winning seasons Cliff Kingsbury has? 2. 2! So you're telling me one of the defensive standouts in the league, one of the young, exciting quarterbacks, we can go through, you already heard the names, you're going to trust Cliff Kingsbury to make the move. That's my biggest question with the Cardinals. That's why I'm not confident enough to say they're a Super Bowl team, because the coach, we're just saying what? He's a high, flashy offensive guy who can make plays. That's the biggest issue for Arizona. Can they actually rely on Cliff Kingsbury to make the right calls when it matters the most? I know we've all been convinced. Shout out to his agent. Shout out to his real estate agent as well. God knows how to do it. That house is insane. That's the biggest question for the Cardinals coming up this season. And the fun question that's going to be coming up is, where's Desean Watson going to land? The Russell Wilson stuff is nonsense. Sierra and the GQ when he wants to leave. Stop. Russell Wilson does not want to leave Seattle. I don't know why he had, again, we talk about agents here. Hey, I don't want to leave, but if I did leave, here's where I'd like to go. Imagine being in a relationship and being like, look, I want to stay married, but if we did get divorced, here are the 4 people I would date. So just consider. Who? Okay. Cliff Kingsbury, great agent. Russell Wilson, might want to reconsider, and Sierra and everything else. So Wilson, I don't believe, is going anywhere. And if he wanted to, he could have gone the season previous when he was actually a free agent and not signed the huge contract. Desean Watson, I bring him up again because more reports speculate he will never wear a Houston Texan uniform again. Jet fan, make the move. Cowboy fan, if you don't want to pay Prescott, but you want to take on the Watson deal, kind of doesn't make sense on that one either. Bears, possibility. That's how good Desean Watson can be, though. When we talk about a situation like the Bears, they can be a playoff team. They can be a top 3 team in the NFC with Desean Watson playing like he can. For the Houston Texans, it's an absolute mess. Go read the Sports Illustrated stuff. Yikes. Yikes. That Houston Texan franchise is going to be done for 4 to 5 years. If I had to guess right now where I think Watson's going to land, I actually would tell you the Chicago Bears. I think the Jets are going to hold off a little bit. I think the situation with Sam Darnold is still wait and see. Jet fan doesn't love it as they sit through a mock draft and wondered if Zach Wilson's the guy. We'll get to Zach Wilson and Justin Fields and all those guys will be closer to draft time. Trust me, we got about another 6 weeks. Hold off on the draft stuff quite yet, Jets fans. Free agency will be fun, but right now I'd guess Desean Watson is going to be a Chicago Bear. They'll be more aggressive, and they think they're closer to do that to give up the pieces needed to make that move. I love what's happening this weekend in the NBA. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way I do, but I'm a big fan of the slam dunk contest. I'm all about it. I like the idea that, okay, we're still going to hold it even though it's going to be at the halftime of the All-Star game, and it's going to be just All-Stars in the three-point shootout. It's going to be kind of fun. Look, I wanted my guy Zion in it, but without Zion, I think Obi Toppin can steal the show. So shout out to the slam dunk contest moving to that day. All-Star weekend for basketball still does it better than anybody else. Now they get the platform with it being a little slower in February. The home run derby got so much better when they had the new rules implemented to that. But I'm all about All-Star weekend. I think it's going to be really fun. I'll be watching it. I hope Obi Toppin steals the show. What I'm not thrilled about at the NBA level is the Brooklyn Nets. Oh, the Brooklyn Nets. I can't stand the Nets. James Harden getting fat and then skinny and then fat again. Kyrie Irving acting like the world is flat and then boycotting the media. Kevin Durant. Look, they've said things non-basketball wise that I couldn't stand. I didn't want to root for them. I root against them. I've said before, I wish I could root for the Nets to lose every single game because some of the stuff they said should not be rewarded. It's not how it should work when you're being a bad teammate. But they're so good. 120 points per game leading the NBA. When you have scores like Harden and Durant and Kyrie, I cannot deny their ability on the court. I hate to even suggest this, and this is what makes me feel worse about it. If someone said, Goz, all right, right now, you've got $20. You can bet on any team to win the NBA title. Who would it be? I tell you, it's the Brooklyn Nets. You're telling me you're going to give me the team that has the best scorers, the team that puts up the most points, the team that might have the easiest path out of the East, and guys who are determined to get that championship. I'm talking more so Harden, who hasn't gotten it yet. Yes, Durant and Kyrie have won championships, but however you want to look at that, somehow in their mind, they feel like they rode somebody else's coattails. Even though Durant was the MVP and Kyrie hit the big shots, it's going to be hard to explain that. Brooklyn is the best team. Brooklyn is the best team in the NBA, and how they're playing right now, they would be the team that I would pick to win the NBA championship when it comes to June. The New York Knicks. I mentioned Obi Toppin. Hey. The Knicks are 500. And you would think the Knicks are going to win the NBA championship the way the Knicks fans are feeling right now. Get excited. I know so many people are trying to temper the Knicks' expectations of, oh, they're only 5. Doesn't matter. You look at the playoff spot, they're dancing between 4, 5, and 6. Knicks fans enjoy this. Now, what do I think is going to happen for the Knicks going forward? Can't we just enjoy what's happening now? Like, I don't want to play the future game. I just did my conversation about the Buccaneers, and people wanted to ask me about the future of the Bucs. Can't I just enjoy it? That's how Knicks fans should feel right now. Just enjoy what's happening. You're not getting laughed at like you used to. You've got players who are pretty good. Tom Thibodeau is going for the NBA Coach of the Year, and rightfully so. Julius Randle's an all-star. Now you get a matchup with Philadelphia, the way Embiid and Simmons are playing. You're probably not going to beat them, but you're in the playoffs. You're a team that's competitive. It's March, and you actually want to watch the Knicks. This is not a negative. This is a positive. I know there are reports out there from Ryan Windhorst that says, he says within the next 12 months, a big-time name is going to request to be traded to the Knicks. Don't put yourself through that again. If it happens, it happens. Wonderful. If it doesn't, look at teams like the Pistons from like 15 years ago, that Piston team with Rip Hamilton and company that shocked the Lakers. Look at the Raptors and Kawhi Leonard. I know Kawhi was a star, though. But I think it's the Spurs teams of the past. Look, I get Leonard and Kawhi were Hall of Famers on those rosters. But the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, it'd be wonderful to grab these all-stars, get traded into the organization, but maybe you can build one. Maybe Obi Toppin can be the guy. Maybe you continue to see some of these young guys actually gel well. Derrick Rose is being a leader and everything else. Knicks fans, enjoy it. Don't let your friends try to poo-poo your success and everything else that's happening with your team. Enjoy what's going on involving your squad. Fight Sports. Israel Adesanya this weekend, UFC. I'm looking forward to these UFC fights, man. It is a great fight weekend. Adesanya, can he be the next John Jones? Can he be the guy that is just so good inside the octagon? You can't deny how good he is. He's fighting a big Polish guy. I can't go against my Polish guy, right? Adesanya is that good, though. I love him. I think he's exciting. He's charismatic. His ability inside the octagon cannot be denied. I don't know how many people who aren't big-time UFC fans truly know about him. You should. He hasn't had that crossover success. And I know that's so difficult to say, like the McGregors and the Rondas and people like that. I always want to put those high top fighters in the, if you don't follow the UFC, would you know who he is? That's his next step. That's what he has to do for the rest of his career is crossover. I hope he has a huge performance. Amanda Nunes is fighting Anderson. Plus 750 for Anderson. I don't know what else Amanda Nunes can do. She's done it. She's the greatest female fighter of all time. She's incredible. This might be, what else can she do? You know, guys will joke around and say she should fight the guys. That will never happen. She's done every weight class. She's dominated. Good for Amanda Nunes. We'll see what she does inside the octagon. I would take both of them to win. Should be really fun. WWE side of it. Wrestling fans. You know I'm a big wrestling fan. Shout out to Bobby Lashley, huh? 17 years in the making. WWE champion. I love it. I think Bobby Lashley going to WrestleMania as the champ's great. Shout out to Bobby Lashley. Big, strong guy. For those who don't remember Bobby Lashley, he was involved in a match years ago with formerly President Donald Trump and the late Umaga, where Vince McMahon's head got shaved and everything else. That's how far back it's been for Lashley. I love it. The Miz cashing his money in the bank. He won. And if we get like Lashley and McIntyre, these guys battle it out, should be a great match. And Reigns and Edge. I got to say, I feel for guys like Edge, and I feel for guys like Karrion Kross and NXT. And some of these athletes, and they truly are wrestlers and athletes, that they don't have a crowd. Because some of this stuff has been really good. I can't wait for the crowds to come back to wrestling for moments like the Royal Rumble, in moments where these fighters who haven't been able to feed off that reaction and everything else. The NXT stuff's really good. Rhea Ripley, I know, just left, but she's awesome. The stuff involving Adam Cole's really good. There's rumors that it's going to move to Tuesdays, and good. You know, people love the Wednesday Night Wars. I especially do as a former Monday Night War person. But if NXT goes to Tuesdays and AEW stays on Wednesdays, I'm fine with it. Man, AEW as well. The barbed wire death match on the way with Moxley and Omega. Sign me up. Love it. The MJF stuff with Jericho. Hilarious. Great. AEW is really good. NXT is really good. Both head and shoulders above anything else that's going on in wrestling right now. Keep up the great work on both of those ends. I didn't want to do this one. I'm going to take the graphic off for a second. You can see me just kind of doing my thing over here. Look, the internet story of the week. What's been trending? What's the biggest topic? Jane Slater, who has done a lot of stuff in the Dallas area, she made some headlines talking about unpaid internships. And whether you're in the media like I am or you have a different job, I think we have to have a discussion about the unpaid internship situation. Because here's the thing about unpaid internships, okay? I've done them. I think they can be successful for your career. I think they can put you in a spot where you want to be in. But there is a vicious cycle. Look at my finger going up in the air, the one that doesn't bend. A vicious cycle that could be potentially on the way. So think of it like this. If you're a writer, okay, let's say you go to Faber College. Some people will get that reference. And you get asked to do an internship for a writing site. Okay, hey, if you get 1,000 views, we're going to give you $100. Whoa, hey, that's pretty cool. If I get 1,000 views, I get $100. I'm in. Let's go. And maybe you achieve it. We're missing the point, though, of what happened for that site. That site is getting free content. Let's say you're covering the New York Rangers. You're now the Rangers writer for whatever site it might be. But that site's now benefiting from your work, and so much so that if you get a ton of views, they benefit, and you benefit nowhere close financially to their writers to do the same thing. Think of it like TV, too. If you're interning for a TV station, they tell you, hey, we're going to have you be the new business reporter. So every time there's a new business, just go bring your camera, your cell phone, tape it, watch it, and then we'll use your video of it. And we'll give you credit on social media. We'll tag you. And if you're 19, 20, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be on TV. This is awesome. Like, let's go. But then you don't get paid like the reporter who should have done it. Let's say you work in radio and you get to do a producer job and you're booking guests and answering phones and everything else. And then there's no producer, but there used to be. And now you're doing his or her job and you're not getting paid. Are you starting to notice the vicious cycle here? And what I'm talking about is that the fact that there are unpaid positions, and some will achieve college credit, the business will always benefit. I feel like that's such an obvious statement, but it needs to be said. What will happen is that these positions will never be filled. That is not good for media going forward. And I can't stand the people who are on Twitter. Again, I'm one of these people who's done unpaid internships. But the people are like, well, I did an unpaid internship and it helped my career, so you should do the same. No. Imagine you went out and you were getting on the bus for school and your grandma came out and said, I didn't ride the bus to school. Start walking, kid. We'd all laugh and be like, what are you talking about? Well, that's the mindset we all should have. We should want the people who are behind us or younger than us to not go through the same things we did. We should hope that we've done something to improve the future for them. So if one of those things is eliminating unpaid internships, that's what should happen. They should not have to go through the same things we did. And what I mean about that vicious circle is that these positions for unpaid internships, again, whether it ends up being one of the three examples I told you, a business will never fill that spot because they will continue to get free labor. Again, some will benefit from college credit, but why would a business ever make that a position again if they know year after year there's going to be a kid wanting that internship and they won't pay him and they won't pay him and they won't pay him? That's what's going to happen for sites going forward, television stations going forward, radio stations going forward. It's not good for the business. And someone's going to say, no, guys, eventually they'll hire somebody for that. No, they won't. Think about one more example, okay? Imagine it's the NFL and on Turkey Day, on Thanksgiving, the punter won't get paid. We'll call it the punter purge, okay? Might be a cool idea. Here we go. The punter's not going to get paid. So some random fan is going to have a free tryout every Thanksgiving Day to be the punter of the Detroit Lions. Okay. Well, guess what? If you offered the Lions that same thing every year, they would take it. Why? Because they're not paying their punter. People, when they're given the option of to pay someone or not to pay somebody, they will never pay them. That's how the business will work. If you can go 6 months to a year to 3 years, having a position and you get to save money, every smart business will save money. You won't pay the punter going forward if you don't have to. Oh, you're going to give us a free player? Yes, sign me up. Guys, unpaid internships will benefit your career. Sure, I totally understand that. But that doesn't mean they're good things. That doesn't mean we should root for them. And just because we did them, that doesn't mean we should tell other people what to do going forward. My two favorite plays for this weekend, my two gambling picks for the week. I like both of these. I'm doing some future wagers here. I want to see the Florida State Seminoles. I like Florida State 25-1 to win the NCAA National Championship. Here's what's up with Florida State. 2017, round of 32 exit. 2018, Sweet 16. 2019, Elite 8. And remember in 2020, before COVID hit, they were actually on the floor in Greensboro, I believe, when they handed them the ACC trophy. They were the best team in the ACC 1 year ago. Now they're long, and if they get a matchup, Scotty Barnes 6'9", MJ Walker 6'5". And by the way, Syracuse people, shout out Quincy Ballard, former Henninger guy who's on the team, not playing that much, but still on the team. If they get like a 3 or a 2 seed, and they get Gonzaga, and Gonzaga and Baylor are by far and away the best teams in the country. But what's good about this is that you can get the odds before the bracket comes out, obviously. If you can tell me Florida State's at 25-1, and they can be long and defend against a Gonzaga or a Baylor, that is too good to pass on. Go get Florida State, and go get Fernando Tatis at 8.5-1 to win the National League MVP. Tatis with a monster contract from San Diego. The Padres are really good. Their pitching staff is stacked. If they can win the NL West, someone's going to get credit for doing that. Tatis is the most likely to have that credit head his direction. So give me 8-5, man. Fernando Tatis to win the National League MVP. We covered a lot of stuff. I told you I was going to move fast. 31 minutes. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself right there. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you liked my takes that I was giving out. Goz on the go. I'm a little winded. I'm sweating. But we had fun. Hopefully you found it entertaining and enjoyed it. If you liked it, leave a comment. If you didn't, let me know. What can we improve next week? At Tom Goz, TOMGOZZ, Facebook, Instagram, and more. Hopefully you liked this sports-themed episode. Hopefully you got some stuff out of it to know what I was thinking about, whether it's about the NFL, college hoops, UAlbany, Syracuse, and more. Maybe we'll do it again next week. Thanks. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday. Getting there with Goz. Goz on the go. Finish that last rep on the treadmill. Talk to you next week.